400,000 of these are sold every year. They are called Daruma, modeled on the face of an Indian monk, from one temple. In Japan, every Japanese prime minister paints the eye of one before an election. Children play a game named after him. Monks bow to his image daily. But in India, where he was born, there is only one statue of him, 6 feet tall, built 10 years ago, by volunteers, because the government never did. In school, we learned about Babur, about Clive, about every person who came to India and took something. We were never taught about this man, Bodhidharma, a Tamil prince from Kanchipuram, widely credited as the founding patriarch of Zen, the figure most closely tied to the origins of Shaolin's martial tradition, revered across Japan, China, Korea, and Vietnam, forgotten in the land that gave him to the world. This is the story your textbook never told you. Around 440 CE, while much of the Western world was in political and intellectual fragmentation, Kanchipuram was one of the greatest cities on earth, the capital of the Pallava dynasty. A city so revered, Sanskrit poets called it Nagarashu Kanchi, the first among cities. 100 Buddhist monasteries, 80 Hindu temples, scholars from across Asia coming to study here. Into this world, the third son of the Pallava king is born. He will not inherit the throne. That fate belongs to his brothers. He is free to follow the question that will consume the rest of his life. What is the nature of this mind? What am I really? His name before monkhood, likely Jayavarman, a warrior's name. His teacher, the great Buddhist master Prajnatara, gives him a new one, Bodhi, awakening, Dharma, the teaching, Bodhidharma. He studies under Prajnatara for years, Buddhist philosophy, the Mahayana tradition, the practice of jhana, the Sanskrit word for deep meditative absorption. He is also trained as a Pallava prince of the warrior caste, body and mind both, sharpened together. That combination of warrior's physicality and contemplative depth will define everything that follows. When Prajnatara is dying, he gives his greatest student a final instruction. Go to China, 70 kilometers from Kanchipuram, Mahabalipuram, the great Pallava seaport. Ships leave from here for Sri Lanka, Java, and China. Bodhidharma boards 1. The voyage takes 3 years. When he arrives in China, around 527 CE, Buddhism has been there for 400 years. Buddhism had become transactional. Build a temple, earn merit. Copy a sutra, earn merit. Fund a monastery, earn merit. Bodhidharma looked at all of it and said no. The Emperor of China, Wu of the Liang dynasty, summons him immediately, the most powerful Buddhist patron in all of East Asia. He has built hundreds of temples. He has funded thousands of monks. He is very proud of himself. He asks the Indian monk, I have built temples. I have ordained monks. I have sponsored sacred texts. What merit have I accumulated? Bodhidharma looked at him and replied, none whatsoever. The emperor, stunned, asked again, then what is the highest truth? Bodhidharma answered, vast emptiness, nothing holy. The emperor, now angry, demanded, who is this standing before me? Bodhidharma replied, I don't know. This was not rudeness. This was the entire teaching. In 4 answers. Emperor Wu did not understand. Bodhidharma left his court and walked north, toward a mountain range in Henan province, toward a small monastery called Shaolin, which means in Chinese, young forest. Near Shaolin, Bodhidharma finds a cave carved into the cliff face. He goes inside. He sits facing the stone wall, and he does not move for 9 years. History does not record fully what happened in that cave. What it does record is what happened after. A young Chinese scholar named Shengguang came to the cave. He wanted to learn from this Indian master. Bodhidharma did not acknowledge him. Shengguang stood outside in the snow for days. Then, in an act of absolute commitment, he drew his sword and cut off his own arm. He held it up. Bodhidharma turned and looked at him. Bodhidharma asked, what do you want? Shengguang replied, my mind has no peace. Please put it to rest. Bodhidharma said, bring me your mind, and I will put it to rest. Shengguang answered, I have searched for my mind and cannot find it. Bodhidharma replied, then I have completely put it to rest for you. In that exchange, Shengguang was enlightened. Bodhidharma renamed him Huika. He became the second patriarch of Chan Buddhism, the first Chinese in the lineage that traces directly back to the Pallava palace in Kanchipuram. Now, Bodhidharma begins teaching at Shaolin. He finds the monks weak, bodies slumped from years of study. Some cannot even stay awake in meditation. So he gives them something radical: movement, breath, discipline made physical. The exercises are named the 18 Hands of Lohan, Lohan being the Chinese pronunciation of the Sanskrit word Arhat, meaning enlightened being, Indian name, Chinese tongue. Over generations, Shaolin monks build on these exercises. Soldier monks arrive at the monastery and add what they know. Scholars observe the animals of the surrounding forest and incorporate their movement. Each generation adds more. 18 movements become 72. 72 become 170. 170 become the 5 animal styles, the foundation of what the world now calls Shaolin Kung Fu. Every martial arts film you have ever seen, every Kung Fu master, every child kicking in a dojo somewhere in the world right now, the tradition many trace back, again and again, to an Indian monk from Kanchipuram. And the other gift, equally vast. Bodhidharma passes the teaching to Huika, Huika to Sengkan, Sengkan to Daoxin, Daoxin to Hongren, Hongren to Huineng. One Indian monk, 6 generations. A tradition that would cross all of East Asia, 6 men, from an Indian prince to a Chinese monk. That lineage became Chan Buddhism in China. Chan traveled to Japan and became Zen. To Korea, Seon. To Vietnam, Thien. The same tradition. 4 countries, 14 centuries. Today, the meditation culture sold back to the modern world, under new names, still traces back to one Sanskrit word, dhyana. The word Bodhidharma carried from Kanchipuram on a ship. The knowledge crossed the ocean. The name of the man who carried it did not. The Shaolin Monastery receives millions of visitors every year. Martial arts academies surround it for miles in every direction. The Chinese government has formally recognized Bodhidharma as a foundational figure in Chinese cultural history. In Japan, over 10,000 temples are associated with Zen Buddhism. The Daruma doll, modeled on Bodhidharma's South Indian face, sold 400,000 times last year from one temple alone. The word Daruma is the Japanese pronunciation of Dharma, the Sanskrit word, the Indian word, in Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan. This Indian man is a household name, a spiritual ancestor, a god. And in Kanchipuram, where he was born, the Pallava kings built temples that still stand today. But not for him. The head of the only Bodhidharma temple in the city said this, on record: there were no portraits or statues of Bodhidharma in Kanchipuram. We had to build this ourselves. Nobody taught us this man. This is the story of what happens when a civilization stops telling its own stories, when it lets others name its heroes, when it teaches its children about those who invaded, and forgets the ones who gave. But the story does not end in forgetting, because the record kept surviving. Chinese texts from 645 CE, a chronicle from 713 CE, 50,000 manuscripts sealed in a cave in Central Asia and rediscovered in 1900, all of them pointing to the same origin. South India, a Brahmin king, a third son. Tamil Nadu. Historians built a research center in Kanchipuram. Japanese scholars traced the word Chan back to its Sanskrit root. The Smithsonian documented the 18 hands of Lohan as exercises from Indian yoga that seeded Shaolin Kung Fu. Again and again, the attempt to erase his origins runs into the same problem. The record keeps leading back to India. Bodhidharma was not born in China. He is a Chinese inheritance from India. And now, slowly, India is beginning to say it aloud. Somewhere right now, a monk in Henan province sits in a cave above Shaolin, facing a wall, practicing dhyana, using a Sanskrit word he has never heard. In school, they taught us who conquered India. They didn't teach us who conquered the world. Bodhidharma walked out of Kanchipuram with nothing. He crossed an ocean. He sat in a cave for 9 years. He gave an entire civilization a new way to understand the mind. And then he left. Legend says he walked back toward India carrying one sandal. The other he left behind. One for the country he gave everything to. One for the land that forgot him. You know now. That is how memory returns. This is Indus Revealed. The history they didn't translate. Every week, one story they forgot to teach you. Subscribe and ask yourself, if they forgot where Kung Fu came from, what else did they forget?